My Month with a Billionaire, episode 28. Yes, y'all, this big ass bomb has just been dropped on me. And Daddy Harley has just told me that him and Dana have had intermarital suggestions and have had proclivities and promiscuities and inappropriate behaviors between them. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you lied to me. And he was like, yes, I lied to you. And I was like, what did we talk about when we first started talking on the phone, Harley? And he was like, many things. Because we did spend a lot of time talking on FaceTime before I did whisk myself away to Cabo with him, y'all. So I did do a lot of research on him and speak to him on the phone for many weeks before we actually pulled the trigger to meet in person. He goes, you told me that you are very open-minded. You just want honesty because you've been lied to in the past and cheated on, and you would have just wanted your partner to tell you that they wanted to step out and you guys would have worked it out or talked about it or broken up or whatever, and that you just don't like being lied to. And I was like, I mean, obviously nobody likes to be lied to, but I am a very extremely chill, understanding girl. And I know that people make mistakes or people have their kinks or whatever. And I am not one to judge or try to change anyone. So all I want is complete honesty. And I just want someone that is going to be upfront with me. And if you had told me in the beginning, and he was like, if I had told you in the beginning about me and Dana, you would have never stayed here. I know women, and there's not a girl on this earth that I could have told that something happened with Dana, which wasn't even a big deal. I'm like, I'll be the judge of that because you haven't told me yet what it is. And he was like, but there's not a woman on this planet that would be cool with that. I mean, I learned that from being with my jealous ex, that women are always going to be territorial. I'm like, that is a lie that men tell themselves to give them the excuse so that they can cheat or do whatever because they think, oh, well, women are territorial anyways. They're all insecure anyways. So I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. That is bullshit. No. Women are territorial when men give us a reason to. If y'all don't respect us or y'all make us feel like we are inferior or we're not like your number one, then yeah, we do get territorial. But women are incredibly strong, independent creatures, and we are capable of a hell of a lot. There's a reason that the universe decided to give childbirth and wonderful periods to women, right? Because men couldn't handle that shit. And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you exactly what happened with Dana, and then you can be the judge. I was like, I need to be very clear about something. The biggest deal here is not exactly that you and Dana had something, but that is a problem of its own because the fact that you had some sort of very inappropriate finaglings with your sober living coach, who is still your sober living coach, who you allow to touch you and do all these things, is very inappropriate, especially if you're trying to get serious with anyone or date anyone at all. However, the issue at hand is that I asked you point blank and you lied to me. And he was like, I know. I was scared that you were going to leave. I was scared that you were going to react poorly. I'm like, and how'd that work out for you? Because now here I am, pissed and ready to fight. And he was like, okay. I'm like, you go ahead and tell me what happened, and then I will decide how I want to react. And he was like, okay. The first 3 months that Dana was staying with me, I was going through a really tough time. I was trying to adjust to being back in the real world, and I was dealing with a lot of shit with my dad, and he was having very, very big mood swings. And every single day I was smoking, and I was just having a drink at night. I was having trouble sleeping. I didn't want to exercise. I gained like 30 pounds. I was severely depressed, and I was missing my friends at the sober living house who had become my community, and I didn't know how to adjust to real life. And Dana was trying to put me on a strict regimen, and she didn't want me seeing certain friends that were partiers because she thought that they were triggering me. And I was feeling very isolated from the outside world. And so I was just in the house with her, Maria, Chef Drew, and Jack, and I couldn't even see Kristen because Dana thought that she was bad for my recovery because she's a party girl. And so I was just heavily depressed. And so I was sneaking drinking behind her back. And I would just get super drunk in the night in my room, and I was meeting girls off apps and having them coming over and having little parties with them. And y'all know what that means in Daddy Harley terms. And he was like, and I was just going through the motions and smoking cigarettes, and I was super, super unhappy. And he's like, and one day I was piss ass drunk in my vault, and Dana was calling me, and she was trying to get into the vault, and I wasn't gonna let her because I knew that she knew that I was drunk. And she just kept calling and calling and calling. And so finally, I let her in, and she came in, and she was really pissed at me. And when she walked into the room, I actually was in there with a girl and a guy. And I'm like, a girl and a guy? And he was like, yes. It was the girl that was over there, and I was watching her and the guy. I'm like, ah, you were being a spectator. And he was like, yep. And I was drunk, I didn't care. And I let Dana walk in, and she was trying to get them to leave. He went in there and started yelling at everyone. She started yelling at me, and the girl got freaked out and she left. And the guy was just sitting there looking at her. I was like, who were these random people? And he's like, I found them off an app. And I'm like, what? And he was like, yeah, the Field app. Like the girl was from the Field app and the guy was her friend. I'm like, ah, I see. And he was like, I'm not gay. I'm like, I didn't say you were gay, Harley. He's like, I'm just saying that I never touch the guys. Like, I just sit there and watch. I'm like, yes, okay. In my brain, I'm thinking, mm-hmm. So yes, y'all, he'd be having these freak offs. And he was like, and Dana walked in and she was really mad at me. And I was just started arguing with her. She was telling me that she was disappointed in me and that I was a loser and that I was never gonna get my life together. And I just told her that she was a coward because she was using her own recovery and throwing that into my face because I knew her story and what happened. And I had said some really mean things because her story is really messed up. He was like, Dana is 49 and she got sober when she was 24. And the reason she got sober is because she was drinking all the time and hiding it from her family. Her drinking is the reason that her kids got taken away from her and she doesn't have sole custody. And her husband actually has majority custody and then she has visitation rights. Because apparently one day she was taking them to school. It was a very, very snowy day in Chicago. Her two kids were in the car. It was snowing and the weather was really, really bad and she had been drinking. She had always had something in her cup. And she had gin in her coffee cup that morning and she was driving her kids to school. She was waiting at a light and her eyes got really heavy because she had stayed up the night before drinking and her foot came off the gas and her car rolled into a light pole. Now, thank God no one was hurt. Obviously, the car was still damaged and the kids were freaked out and her kids got taken away because of it. And she did have to serve a little bit of time, but that's what started her sober journey. And that's what made her become so dedicated to the sober lifestyle. And that's why she's so strict and believes that alcohol is just the root of all evil. And he's like, but she has this holier than thou mindset when it comes to things. And she always acts like she knows best and is better than everyone. And she came in there that day and she had told me that she wanted me to stop drinking and doing all these things and having people over and having these parties. She said that I wasn't taking the recovery seriously and needing me to listen to her, and I didn't want to listen to her. And I basically threw it in her face that it was her fault and that she could have unalived her children and I shouldn't have said that. I destroyed her. And she was so upset and I was just like, it hurts, doesn't it? And I handed her my drink and I just said, why don't you take a sip and you'll feel better and then we can have a conversation. And she did. And then one thing led to another. He's like, we ended up taking shots. She got piss ass drunk, so did I. We were drinking with the guy that was there. And next thing you know, I was sitting on a chair watching them on the bed. And I was like, okay, let me rewind and just reconfigure and make sure that I have downloaded all the information correctly. So you antagonized her, told her that it was her fault that she lost her kids, and then told her that she could have unalived them, made her feel guilty, told her that she should kill the pain with a drink. And she had been like 21 years sober at that point. You caused her to relapse. You guys get drunk and then it all leads to her and the dude doing the nasty on the bed and you sitting there on the chair wanking your chain. Is that correct? And he was like, yes, that is correct. I was like, oh my God. So you never actually did anything with her, like physically yourself, your body and her body. And he was like, no. And I'm like, I don't know if this is worse or better. Like, I don't know what's worse, okay? And he's like, look, I have a thing. I was like, what is the appeal? Like, I don't kink shame at all, right? But what is the appeal about you watching two people rather than you being involved? And he was like, it allows me to experience something without actually getting attached or being too involved and being vulnerable. I was like, so it's about being vulnerable. It puts you in a position where they're in the vulnerable position and you're not in the vulnerable position. And he was like, yeah, because I also direct them. I'm like, oh, so you're also the conductor. And he was like, yeah, that's actually what like gets me off. I'm like, so you're sitting there, one hand over here on the chain, the other hand going like, and you do this and you do this and you do this and you put this there. And he was like, exactly. And I was like, holy crap, I was like, holy crap, I was drunk before, but I am stone cold sober now, y'all. I was like, Harley, okay. And he was like, you want to leave now, huh? And I was like, No, I am very interested in trying to understand your brain, sir, because that is how my brain works. And I'm just wondering how all this started. How did you discover that this was something that you liked? And how did it turn into you just not even wanting to do one on one? Did you ever like one on one? He was like, okay, so I will tell you exactly how it started. It's really effed up. I was like, Harley, I've had a very effed up life. I have told you some details about the way that I grew up and the abuse that I had gone through from not just family members, but from friends and multiple men throughout my life from being a child and up. So trust me, I have seen things and I have done things and I have been in situations. So nothing you say is going to surprise me or make me judge you. I'm just trying to understand who you are. After you tell me, then we can also talk about the lying stuff and we can go from there. And he was like, absolutely. So it started when I lost my virginity when I was 14, and it was to my nanny at the time who was 26. And I was like, Harley, that's not okay. And he was like, I know. But at the time, it felt very normal because she was the closest person to me. My mom was trying to love on me and my sister still. She was starting to get sick, and she did start looking at me differently because of what happened with Leland. And so I had a nanny at the time, and her name was Paulina. And I'll never forget the day that I met her. I thought she was the most beautiful person I had ever seen in my life. And she was the one that introduced me to sex and this entire lifestyle. And I was like, when you were 14? And he was like, yes, when I was 14. So yes, y'all, Daddy Harley has a lot of lore and a lot of pain, and there's a reason that he is the way that he is. And we will get more into that in the next episode. Thank you so much for being here. I love you and I see you. Big hug, big kiss.